Hello, my name is Jemari McGarry, and today I will be doing some first aid simulations. And to treat a fracture, we have our animal who came in, and let's say he got ran over by a car. And so the first thing I'm gonna do, and I have my Haley here to help me. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take him, and I'm gonna first put a muzzle on him, and Haley's gonna hold him while I put the muzzle on very carefully. Make sure it's tight enough. Make sure it's secure. Okay. So after I place the muzzle on, I'm gonna use this as a stretcher, just in case. Let's say if we don't have one, even though we do, we're gonna use this as a stretcher. Well, I guess this will be better. And we're gonna lift him up very carefully and put him lateral recumbency on the stretcher. And Mahaley's gonna get one end of the blanket, and I'm gonna get the other end of the blanket. And I'm gonna let's carefully lift him up. And let's transport him to the lift table. All right, so now that we've transported the animal on the table using our makeshift stretcher, I'm gonna do a modified splint, but I'm not gonna be able to take my time and do it perfectly. So until the vet gets here, I'm gonna do just a splint, and I'm gonna use some of this sponge wrap, gauze sponge wrap. Not to make it too tight, but just to secure it. So take that off, and then just to secure it some more, I'm gonna get a little bit of vet wrap off. Okay, care. Okay, sorry, but for now, this would be the modified splint to have on until the veterinarian gets here and she would like to do it or change it. Oh, thank you. Okay, there it is. So we have the modified splint on for the fracture, and then when the veterinarian gets here, she or he can do an x-ray and do further research into the fracture.
What I said in this clip was worded wrong. You are supposed to apply the tourniquet, but before you apply the tourniquet, you are still supposed to have a piece of gauze on the wound, and then you apply the tourniquet on top of the gauze. And then after that, you would loosen the tourniquet for 20 seconds, and you would do that for every 15 to 20 minutes. But for the most part, everything else is right. It was just worded incorrectly. And so I just had to take note of that before the upload of the video.
Okay, so now that we've gone over external bleeding, if we have bleeding that is internal, of course, the muzzle probably wouldn't be on, just in case bleeding is coming from the mouth, from the nose. The muzzle would be off. The muzzle does not want to come off. Okay. In a matter of internal bleeding, the muzzle probably 9 times out of 10 would not be on. And so the best thing for me to do is to keep the animal warm and keep him safe and everything and quiet as possible until the veterinarian can come if he or she is not around at the moment. So that is what you would do in a time of internal bleeding. Okay, so with chemical burns, we would muzzle the animal again. muzzle the animal because, of course, the burn would sting, it would hurt. So once we muzzle the animal, I am gonna come over here. I wish we had a smaller sink, but I'm gonna come over here and I am going to turn on some water, some cool water, and I would flush the burn with large amounts of cold water. Okay, so now if it was a severe burn instead of a chemical burn, you would not flush the arm with large amounts of cold water. You would then have a really cold ice compress. I would have grabbed the towel, but don't have towel. But let's say this gauze is soaked in ice water. You would grab this ice cold and make it an ice cold compress on the wound and just hold it here to the burnt area, and then keep holding it until the veterinarian says to do otherwise. And that is what you would do with severe burning versus chemical burning. All right, so let's say our patient has came in and the client says it has been choking or thinks it's choking on something. So if I could, I would open the animal's mouth and I would reach down and see in the oral cavity if there's anything that I see that he's choking on, he or she is choking on. And if I can, I'm going to use my hands and go in and be careful while doing it. I'll go in and get it out with my hands, but if I'm not able to do it with my hands, I will grab a pair of tweezers or anything else that will allow me to go in there and pull whatever is in the oral cavity out. So on the other hand, while doing this, you do have to be careful because an animal that is most likely in pain or that's panicking will most likely try to bite, and it's not out of spite, but it's just because they are afraid, they're scared, it's fearful. So be careful while doing this. And symptoms of an animal choking on something, difficulty breathing, excessive pawing at the mouth and everything, choking sounds, coughing, blue mouth, gums, tongue. Okay, so with a Heimlich maneuver, I forgot to say that I will place both of the palm of my hands around the rib cage and I'll raise them up and put pressure on it to make whatever's in his throat or oral cavity come up. But I will do it for about 3 to 4 times. Okay, so if I had a dog that came in and is having a heat stroke, I'm gonna place a cool or cold towel around his neck and around his head. Don't cover the eyes, the nose, or the mouth. And so after that, I would remove the towel, wring it out, and rewrap it every, let's say every 3 minutes. And I will continue to do this until the temperature has dropped to about 103.5. And so if the animal is wet after everything, I will dry the animal off to prevent hypothermia. Okay, so if I happen to have an animal that came in and it is in shock, the first signs that I would notice is shallow breathing, a weak pulse, just all of the above. And the number one thing that I would do before the veterinarian can get here, I would keep the animal restrained, and I would keep the animal also warm. So maybe I would have a blanket or just use my body heat as well. And also if the animal happened to be, let's say, unconscious, I would keep the head level at the same level as the body, so I wouldn't have him laying off the table or anything else. I would keep him head level, everything all together. Okay, In regards to poisoning and exposure to toxins or any other toxic foods that your dog or your cat or your animal in general may eat or may digest, or all of the above, there are plenty of things that we eat that they cannot have. The number one thing that a lot of people, well, that I tell a lot of people, is chocolate. Chocolate contains caffeine and theobromine. I think I pronounced that correctly. It contains caffeine and theobromine, and this is very toxic when it comes to an animal digesting or eating this of some sort. Also, things like onions, onion powder, grapes, apple seeds, walnuts, nuts in general, all of those foods are toxic and harmful to them. Also, things that contain xylitol, like gum, any type of candy, that is also toxic for them. So that's just to name a few. And we also see, we've seen patients that came in and they have ingested rat poisoning. And when it comes down to rat poisoning, we usually just do them a couple doses of hydrogen peroxide until it comes back up. And then we send them home with an aftercare routine. So that is a way to handle rat poison. And as far as everything else, such as chocolate or anything else they might have ate, I'm pretty sure if you have an emergency vet nearby, you can call the emergency vet and just get them to the nearest vet as possible. If you know how long it's been since they ate, or if you're sure that they digested it or not sure, just get them to the nearest vet, because it is very harmful and it could cause many problems. Some may result into death, I believe, depending on how long it's been, but that's just to name a few foods and things that are toxic to them. Also, in regards to taking your pet to the vet after they've ingested or ate a toxic or harmful substance or food or anything harmful, we would need to collect, if it's a patient of ours, we would like to have we usually have the name, the species, whether it's a dog or cat or etc., the age, the breed, the sex, its weight, and how long it's been since they ate the substance, how much of it that they eat, or what amount, the certain amount that they've ingested, or what exactly were they exposed to. Just all of the above, because that information can play an important role in figuring out how to treat for that matter. So if you could collect any material or anything that's left of it, like a wrapper, if they ate chocolate, or a bag of rat poison, what type of rat poison, what was in the rat poison, anything that you have left over from it, it can be also helpful, because it could tell us what ingredients were in there, how much percentage of what was in the ingredients, or just all of the above. All of it could play a very important role in it. And so as far as them eating cleaning products, if it's not that bad, if you could take care of it at home, check the label of the product, and if it tells, it'll say on the back, if this product gets into your eyes or on your skin. If it gets into your eyes, it'll tell you maybe to flush your eyes. And if it says that, you would do the opposite. You would flush your dog's eyes. If it tells you, if it gets on your skin, and it tells you to scrub for a certain amount of minutes, scrub with antibacterial soap for 15 minutes too, then you would do that to your dog. Basically, the same thing the label tells you to do on the packaging, you would do the same for your pet. And If you cannot find the labeling, or if that's not working, you would want to take them to your nearest veterinarian. And so the last thing I want to cover in this first aid simulation is how to deal with seizures. I can't necessarily perform how to do or how to assess the patient in a seizure because the other room is occupied, but I'm sitting in the chair. So obviously what I would not do, I would keep the animal away from any objects, including furniture, that could probably hurt it in the process, because it's having a seizure. It's uncontrollable shaking. They do not have control over their body movements or muscles or all of the above. So what you would do in the time of a seizure, A, keep them away from any objects, furniture, etc. B, time the seizures. The seizures usually, they say they usually last about 2 to 3 minutes. So just make sure to time those. And if the seizures happen to stop, which I'm sure they will, if the seizures do stop, keep the pet warm and quiet as possible. And then if you can, after that, please get them to the nearest veterinarian, your nearest veterinarian, as soon as possible.